story. We're back in downtown Toronto, and last night a huge agreement was reached in women's hockey between the women who were striking and USA Hockey. Can you elaborate on this?
Well, first of all, another week. A lot of things happened, which you just mentioned, which is a big factor. You told me you've been studying. I'm sure you've called your parents and told them how hard you're working, which is a bunch of crap, likely just laying around. And but, you know, you've got us convinced that you and the boys behind the table here have been studying or something. But in the meantime, there's been a lot of people studying, especially USA Hockey, because it's very, very simple here. The girls took a position, and they had to have an opportune time to do it, because it was a very bold move. And USA Hockey, bad decisions make real good stories, Minion. And USA Hockey made a bad decision here. They were confronted with this because they'd been negotiating for years to get a better situation.
To clarify, the agreement that they reached was a 4-year deal. Each player will be paid $71,000 during non-Olympic years, and if the team manages to win a gold medal, they can make up to $100,000.
The issue is not what they settle on, and it was not only that, it was traveling conditions. They were flying in the back of the bus when the big boys were flying with the men. They were not staying in the same quality hotels. They were very underpaid. And USA Hockey tried to get scabs here. They called other girls, and the girls told them to suck eggs in 2-4 time.
Good for them.
Yes.
Could you imagine? It's your dream to play for this hockey team,
right?
And then you're essentially asked to join as a replacement?
Yeah. And give them a lot of credit. But the point is, they made a lot of bad decisions here. And the issue was equity again. Fairness. That's all we're talking about. 18 U.S. senators sent letters. The Players Association, a number of the NHL players made it very, very public how they were on their side. And as I said here, USA Hockey, bad decisions make good stories. I'm talking about the decisions they made once and they were confronted with it. Not only the fact that it was a real unfair deal with the women. The fact is the decisions they made after that. And pretty soon they read the sympathy of the public. And God bless those young women for taking, good on them, that they took a position. I mean, that's what the world's come to now. Is that people, if you, treat people the way they should be treated. And, Pat Summitt, one of the greatest women's basketball coaches, had a great statement. Players don't care how much you know unless you know how much they care. And USA Hockey didn't know how much they cared. And all they wanted was, as we've said a couple of times here, is a sense of fairness. And now they're going, the World Championships are just a few days. You could be sure that they'd been working out and been, And to the credit, the stars of the hockey team, and they hung together.
Oh, and it must have been so difficult, especially with the World Championship coming up. Geez, opportunity to show off their skill to the world. For many of them, arguably a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And
like we want a coach to be a good listener, it was the circumstances created it. And what the public sympathy, but USA Hockey decided to be a good listener. However, that decision, what forced them to make that decision, the result was that they were a good listener. And now the women feel there's a sense of fairness, and they're always, always a top contending team. So good for everybody, because now we're going to see a great team in the World Championships and everything else for women's hockey, and it's just a great ending. However it came, and whatever the cause was, and the fact is that they finally made a decision. However, as we said before, to do the right thing, and the right thing was done.
And we're going to look back one day, and these women are going to be viewed as heroes by other aspiring female athletes because I mean, they really took a firm stance, and they were saying, no, we're not going to do this unless we're treated fairly. So good for them. Sherry, moving into some NHL action. Connor McDavid, your former player, in his second year has led the Edmonton Oilers to their first playoff appearance since the 2005-2006 season. How about that?
Well, everybody said they won the lottery. They didn't win the lottery. They won the biggest jackpot ever since Gretzky. That's what they won. They won like a world record.
Since
jackpot.
Gretzky, not even since Crosby. Since Gretzky.
Or Crosby too. Not to demean. That's a good point. They don't like great player, but it's some kind of a they say they were lottery winners. Lottery's an understatement because this guy with his character and his brilliance as a player and his ability, and you could kind of feel even through the television when you see a team on an innocent climb, as we've talked. You and I have visited a lot about this. They as players, because Connor's been on all these teams that wherever he's gone they win. Make no mistake about that. It's just a fact of life, because not just because of the player he is, because of the person he is. And and he's felt this before, where this surging power, you start to, you get this surging power, and therefore all your internal rivalries, your turf wars or whatever they are, and any selfish behavior patterns, they're all set aside. Because they can feel what's going on here now. Now that they've made the playoffs, I know Connor McDavid personally. I'm proud to say that. Proud to say that we're very, very good friends. He, as the leader of that team, won't be satisfied with just making the playoffs, because they got an honest chance to move up.
Absolutely, and that is also contingent on goaltending, Sherry.
It sure is.
And you always say goaltending, of course, is the most important part of any team. And Cam Talbot has played more games than any goalie in the league this year. He's had hardly any rest. Now that the Oilers have clinched a playoff spot, how do you see them handling his games towards the start of the playoffs? Because, I mean, they could fight for home ice advantage.
Oh, they could. They are fighting for home ice.
Well, they are, but what do you value? Do you value that, or do you value giving your goalie some rest ahead of the playoffs?
No. Home ice advantage is a big factor, especially in the first round and so forth. That first round is such a delicate round because the tension, and I've been through it for many, many years. Even though you're a favorite and even though, anything can happen, and then when you win that first round, you talk about that surge of power that's in your team that I just talked about. Talk about that feeling. But you're tense for every round. I mean, that conviction and that commitment, and you know what I mean? Make no mistake about that. One thing that's important to them right now, and in the playoffs, and in your surge to get home ice advantage, if what you did yesterday looks big to you today, then you haven't done much today. Because when you talk about now they've made the play, that's yesterday. Yesterday is over with. And he's not going to get some rest until they have specifically established their position for the playoffs, whether they can't go down or can't go up or whatever it is. Because as you pointed out, and as I've always said, he's a key guy. He's a key guy to get to that position. And they're also going to say, look, hey, the rest hasn't seemed to affect him so far. I would think in the last couple of games they're going to do everything they can to get him that rest. But let's put it this way. I'm sure you will, Minion, but I'll be surprised if they rest him.
Yeah, because there's an argument to be made that he's rolling. You're right.
Yeah.
It hasn't affected him, so do the Oilers want to mess with anything that's been going right for them lately? And I'm going to agree with you, Sherry. I actually think that the Oilers can make a bit of a run here. They might have a very, very tough opponent in the San Jose Sharks, although the Sharks have been weak lately.
Last night won in overtime. But I'll tell you this. The fact that they won the 6-game losing streak. And when we get to talk about Minnesota, make sure you remind me to talk about the Sharks and what their coach has done when they were on that losing streak. That's a time that I want to talk about that whenever on our agenda we slide into that Minnesota hockey team that's been struggling. But
Well, before we get to Minnesota, let's talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs, Sherry. Huge win against the Florida Panthers. They are positioning themselves to get to the postseason. Okay, they have 7 games left. They play Nashville, which is a playoff team on the road. Detroit, on the road, non-playoff team. Then Buffalo, another non-playoff team. And then they come home and close their season out against Washington, Tampa Bay, Columbus, and Pittsburgh. That's a tough stand, those final 4 games. So I'm going to ask you right now, Sherry, what does this team need to do to solidify themselves as a playoff team?
Well, I would have the obvious up on the board. You're the maker of your own fortune. Okay? But knowing those guys now and the feeling that they have, and they now believe they can win, because remember we visited about this in previous shows?
Yep.
As opposed to hoping they can win, there's a big difference. They believe they can win. And so when I look at that and I say, hey, now that they believe they can win, I don't think they're looking at who the opponent is. I think they can believe, as I visited with Connor Brown last night, who's playing phenomenal, and Hyman gets a goal shorthanded. And these guys, by the way, speaking about the Leafs, Connor Brown's got 17 goals. If those other special players weren't there, he'd be headlines every day. I mean, they're talking about this guy being chopped. We almost imply that this guy's chopped liver. This guy's a phenomenal, smart. Hey, at the end, when they just won their game, guess what? And they pulled their goalie. Guess who was on the ice? Connor Brown in the last minute of the game. Think about that. So when you talk about these young things, but hey, no excuses now. You got yourself to this point. They don't want to look back and say we almost did it. You can be sure they don't want that to happen. And all this praise, all this business about how much we love them doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean a thing. The issue is the task in front of them. And I think Babcock's got them separated from all this praise, and he's isolated them now. They believe they can win, as we said. And the real good thing that you mentioned that people that might have missed, they have 4 amazing opponents at the end, all at home. So they're not traveling. They can be properly rested. It's not like we're playing Chicago. It's not like we're playing Chicago tonight and then, we have to be in Pittsburgh the next night or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Or we play one at home and we got to get on the plane and go. They're all at home. We all want, just like playoffs, home advantage. They've got the opportunity. So they're the maker of their own fortune.
Personally, I think they're getting in. I'm sure a lot of other Canadians agree, but we'll have to see. We're going to see what they're really made of during those final 4 games.
Well, the real motivation, I've always believed that when you're working with teams, is how much you believe in something. You multiply that times how much you believe you can attain it. And if there's some people in that room that don't believe that, and I don't think that's the case anymore because they believe they can win. So if they believe in it and you multiply that times how much they believe they can attain it, if they're committed to that formula, they usually win.
All right, Sherry. Let's get back into the Minnesota Wild. This is a team that's been struggling, similar to the San Jose Sharks. They're 1-7-2 in their last 10. And Bruce Boudreau seems pretty fed up with how his team has been playing. He's essentially implied that the fans should get their money back for what they've had to watch lately. And Boudreaux was even kind of thrown Devin Dubnyk under the bus publicly, saying that he needs to play better. And I want to know your thoughts about finger pointing and just that whole ordeal.
That's a good question, Minion, because I believe in being committed to this core covenant that you and I have visited about. You know what I mean? I believe in positive peer pressure. It's got to replace blaming and finger pointing, because those are vicious enemies of teamwork. Vicious enemies. So you need mutual reinforcement. You need constructive teaching, and you have to monitor it. So I like Boudreaux. Never mind it doesn't matter. I respect what he's done. I remember him as a player. So, him and I go back to Confederation. So
it's always interesting picturing Bruce Boudreaux as a hockey player.
Yeah.
It just...
Really smart player, good with the puck.
Understands the game.
Yeah, he was, he was an extremely intelligent hockey player. So now that you bring up, and I'm glad you brought this up because so I didn't forget it, and I respect that, is San Jose Sharks. I watched their coach when they were being interviewed. No finger pointing, no blaming. He said, all teams go through a soft spot in this league. We have to get it together. We have to get it together. There's a big difference. And it goes back to my positive peer pressure. And that hit me right away when I saw him interviewed and listened. And I know DeBoer very well, too. He was in our league for a long time, and we competed against each other. So I go way back with DeBoer. But the point is, two contrasting approaches publicly. And so I remember I cut many, many years ago. This is in the 70s. And 4 players broke curfew. Good players. Really good players. So they came to the game, and we had just traded for this outstanding goalie. They all came to the game, and I'm standing by the dressing room door, and they came in a couple hours. They said, where are you guys going? I said, we're going to get dressed. I said, really? If you're dressing tonight, you're dressing for the other team. So if you want to get dressed, you should be going to the other dressing room because you're not dressing for us. You broke a core covenant. Not only aren't you dressing, you're going to sit in the stands and do some statistical work for us. And you tell the crowd while you're sitting in the stands, if you want to, or just say, he didn't dress us tonight. Whatever you want to tell them, you tell them. I gave every one of them a clipboard and had them sitting all over the arena with the fans. And everybody knew them because they were good players. And you got an opportunity to express yourself, whatever. But because you broke a core covenant here, you're not dressing tonight.
And how did these players build?
Well, the funny thing is, we brought a guy up to replace him by the name of Bernie Saunders. John Saunders, who passed away prematurely, with ABC. Bernie got 2 goals in the game. We never sent him back. Ended up being one of our top players. Ended up getting a full scholarship to Western Michigan. He's a very successful businessman now. And the funny thing is about other people getting opportunities. But when the players realized that we were a pretty good team, and it was the team that counted, not the individuals. I remember specifically we won 6-2. And I called them back. I said, well, let's talk to the team now about how we feel about this whole thing. And we had a team meeting. I said, it's over with. You understand the core covenant? Let's go on and win something. And we were a phenomenal team from then on.
I like that. That's how you build character.
And you know what? And as a matter of fact, that's funny you saying. That's a good point. With Minnesota losing and with San Jose losing, we've visited about this before. Losing does not build character. That's the dumbest comment since they invented comments. since people started making comments. Losing doesn't build character. You find out about your character when you're losing. You discover what character we have. It doesn't build character. Minnesota and San Jose are finding out about it.
Sherry, last week we were joined by a journalist from The Sun, Steve Simmons.
Phenomenal interview, too. Just knocked down.
Great brain to pick.
Oh, yeah.
Steve is phenomenal. And we're about to be joined by another journalist from The Sun.
Let me tell you something here, Minion, about Michael. He's a budding star, just like we talk about athletes. This guy, if you read his stuff, he does his homework. He gets to the core of things. He expresses his opinion when he puts his... So I'm really pleased to have you join us, Michael. I mean that sincerely from my heart. And for you to give us the time, it's special for us. And I wanted to thank you for that because I consider you one of the stars of sports writing. So.
Oh, thanks. Coming from you, it means a lot, Sherry.
Well, Michael.
Should be fun.
Well, what I want to first of all talk about, I read your piece on the NHL skipping the 2018 Olympics.
Yep.
And it's pretty straightforward that everybody wants to go there except the executive and the owners. Is that a misnomer on my part?
No, it seems like everyone except for, like you said, ownership and or Gary Bettman, which is pretty typical. I don't know if they're just holding out for a sweeter deal. It seems that way. I also think that legitimately they just don't even see the benefit in going. Kind of a short-sighted view, but I believe that's the reason. And I remember you're a big proponent of that. I remember years ago you were at a hockey summit and you kind of got into it with Brian Burke about the whole idea of just that idea that it's a short-sighted opinion.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, we want to see the best players. I mean, that's what the Olympics is about.
The players want to go, and that's,
sure.
If they want to go, let them go. Like, I don't get it.
And who doesn't want, like any player? I mean, even the World Cup, as much as we were excited with Team North America, you ask those guys about representing their country as opposed to being in team. That was a great experience, but they want to represent their country.
100%.
I also have a question, Mike.
Yep.
As you said, Bettman doesn't really seem to care whether or not the players go. And in our legal business and sports class at Ryerson University, we're also taught that Bettman doesn't really care as well. So I'm kind of curious. Should he have more of a desire to want to globalize hockey and get it going in Asia, really? Because the potential to spread the sport there and then have a huge hockey player come from Asia into the NHL, doesn't that have potential to just make the NHL millions of dollars in the future?
Yeah, but he also sees the expansion into Asia and I guess specifically China. He sees it as something where you can do that and without the Olympics. Mm-hmm. And that's why tonight there's going to be the announcement that Vancouver and Los Angeles are going to play exhibition games, and he sees that as a means to get there. He doesn't think necessarily you have to have the Olympics. And you know what? In another 4 years, they probably will end up going to Beijing because that's the one they really care about.
You're right.
Like you said, he just thinks it's like one of those ones where South Korea just doesn't provide any benefit. So if they can skip this one and go to the next one, he'd be more than happy to do that.
Yeah, I think that you make a heck of a point here because, I mean, they want the marketing dollars and TV exposure in China.
And then NBC just announced that also they're not going to do a time delay. So the games are going to be shown at some pretty wonky hours. So I don't think you're even going to benefit by having even North American eyeballs on the sport. So that hurts the NHL as well.
Yeah, without question. It's something like 2:30 in the morning or something. But it's...
At best case scenario, you're talking about like early morning. So, So they really get hurt by that.
Well, I'll tell you, I really understand that. I want to talk to you about, I know you've got a project that you've embraced, and I'm anxious to read about it when it's completed in a number of months, but about the young guns in the NHL right now.
Right.
And I started going through this has got to be a phenomenal project because first of all, you're going to have to. I just went through a quick list here, and who comes off when you're talking about like obviously Matthews, Nylander, you know what I mean. We know that, and Marner, and obviously McDavid
Mr.
and Eichel,
McDavid.
and we know about those. But then there's Laine. I always pronounce it the wrong way.
Laine.
Goudreau, Monahan, McKinnon, Werenski, Jones and Hannafin. I don't know if Bo Horvat is a young gun. Is Riley too old? Is Trouba too old? Galchenyuk, Draisaitl, Forsberg.
Eichel.
I mentioned Eichel, Pasternak, Barkov, Druin, Huberdeau. I mean, this is a hell of a project you got here.
And I'm trying to limit it to 10 guys. So you think about the names that are going to get left off that because I'm going for trying to keep it down to 10 players, which is going to be tough. A lot of times I'm just rotating guys in and out based on how they've been playing this year and what I think they're going to be doing in the years to come. But you're right, it is a daunting task.
Yeah, I mean,
especially just coming up with the names.
Well, I mean,
10 sounds easy, but then a lot of the names you mentioned aren't even on that list because of just who I have to limit it to.
Right, and the point is, I give you credit because you're gonna make a decision. You're gonna define 10. And then you're going to put your name on it. And I mean, I really respect that when you take a position like that. That's why we love to read about you.
And
that should be fun, though.
And Mike, when you're choosing these 10 players, does it at all have to do with the market that they play in? For example, are you going to maybe lean towards players that play for Canadian teams, or is that not going to be a factor?
Yeah, kind of. You try not to make it a factor.
Yeah.
Obviously, it helps if you got some Canadian guys, but it's not the be all end all. Like I don't have anyone from Vancouver just because I wouldn't put a Horvat in the same category as a Matthews or McDavid or even a Goudreau. So right now, I've got Matthews, McDavid, Eichel, Marner, Laine, Scheifele, and again, 23 and under. Matt Murray, Johnny Gaudreau. And then the next two spots they've been kind of going in and out. I've got Nylander and I had McKinnon. I swapped out McKinnon for Ekblad, and I might end up having swapped Ekblad out for someone else. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm trying to narrow it down as best as I can because I've already done some of the research. So
yeah, no, I give you credit. I didn't even think of Murray. It's an automatic. I mean,
when you look at Murray, he's the next Carey Price. Really.
Sure.
He's
and what about Werenski?
That's the other one. So I might have to put Werenski in place of a guy like Ekblad. But then a lot of times like a year ago, we might have said, okay, Gostisbehere's got to be on this list, right?
Exactly.
And then his second year wasn't as strong as his first year. And then you're going, okay. And then how can you not have a guy like Aaron Ekblad who looks like he's going to be a factor on Team Canada in years to come? But in the same way, he's taken kind of a step back. So you almost have to do some projecting yourself, figure out, okay, we're trying to take the guys who are going to be hands down, slam dunk, legitimate big stars of the NHL. And while McDavid and Matthews are easy ones, and even a guy like Goudreau and maybe Eichel. It gets a little iffy when you're talking about maybe guys like Nylander, and I don't know, maybe a Marner's also in that category where you're going, okay, is it too early to kind of say that he's going to be in that category?
Yeah, this is a daunting task when you think about, because in a normal year, like Draisaitl isn't even in the conversation, and he's got 70-some points here. I mean, people don't realize when you've taken on this project and defining it like you're going to define it and open yourself for criticism, which has never bothered you because you put your heart in it and you sign your name, and I always respect that. Or guys like Barkov, you know what I mean? These guys, at any other time, these guys would have been on your list.
Oh, for sure. And that probably speaks to just how incredible this young crop of players are.
Right.
And I think we try to say it every year where it's just the young man's league and there's always guys coming up. But I really think that this year has really shone a light on just how important and the rookies are. And you look at Toronto, and that's a prime example where I think roughly half the points, half their goals, have been scored by rookies. And I think they've had at some points 11 rookies in the lineup, which is just incredible. And it's not just minor contributions. Like we're talking about Matthews, Marner, Nylander, a guy like Hyman who's playing on your top line, and Nikita Zaitsev who's playing on your top defense pair.
Right.
It's a special group. And then you look around the league, and like we mentioned, Laine was in the Rocky Richard conversation for basically the whole year.
Right.
And beyond rookies, like a guy like Scheifele, I think you're putting together a Team Canada roster right now for the Olympics in South Korea. It'd be hard not to have Scheifele's name there, just for how big of a jump he's made in terms of becoming that elite number one center. So when you look at the guys like Getzlaf and maybe Corey Perry, even Patrice Bergeron, those guys they're not old by any measure, but they're going to get old one day, and even before they even get to that age where you're saying, okay, now their time's up, I think these young guys are already pushing them out the door.
Well, and not only that, the leadership of these guys, too. It's just not that they're good hockey players. Matthews just exudes leadership, and Goudreau and McDavid, obviously. And when you look at all... Well, here's an example that Jesse and I were talking about. Minion to me, Jesse to everybody else. But anyway, here's a guy. Connor Brown's got 17 goals. He's on the ice in the last minute of play with a 1-goal lead to protect the lead. All the things, of course, I know him. I'm not just trying to be subjective here. I'm not talking about young guns. But in a normal year, he'd be in the paper every day in Toronto.
Yep.
Every day. They'd be so excited that they had a rookie that scored 17 goals. They'd be talking about the future and what he's going to bring. And he's part and parcel of their success. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and the funny thing is, Sherry, you look at a guy like Matt Murray, who comes off winning the Stanley Cup, and I think it was top 5 in either save percentage or goals against the last time I looked last week, tied with Carey Price, and very much a big part of why Pittsburgh is doing what they're doing 1 year after winning the Cup. Any other year, he's a slam dunk Calder winner, and he might even be a Vezina Trophy candidate. This year, he's not even getting mentioned. He might not even be a finalist.
Yeah.
And this kid is just, like, we forget, he's only, 21 or 22 years old, to do what he's already done. And I'm like, it's not like he's even come out of nowhere. Like, he has the record in the American Hockey League for consecutive shutout streak and most shutouts in a season. So, he did it. He's basically done it at every level. And you're probably familiar with him.
I'm very
like Sioux, so.
Oh, absolutely. He was a standout in the Sioux and backstopped them to a Stanley Cup last year. I mean,
with having played a dozen or Baker's dozen regular season games.
Right.
So it's really remarkable just how special this young group of players is, and I think we all saw it with Team North America, and really that was their coming out party to a degree, because a lot of people thought this team was just going to get steamrolled. They had no experience. Their backhand was going to get exposed. Their goaltenders had no basically regular season experience, and they came into that tournament just flying and really kind of set the tone, and came within basically 1 goal of making it onto the, I guess it was the semis or the quarterfinals of that tournament. And I really wish they had gone that far, because I thought that they were just getting more confidence as they were going on, and maybe kind of striking some fear into opponents' eyes.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, when you came away from the games there, and I attended a lot of the games, if not all of them, but I missed a couple, that's what people were all talking about, was Team North America.
Yeah.
But how exciting, how they were all excited about watching that team play. And the irony that you point out here with Scheifele and all, these guys are leaders too.
Yeah.
Like they're not only going to be the best players on their team, they're going to be leaders on and off the ice.
Well, McDavid is already a captain. Scheifele is an assistant captain.
Right.
You look up and down the line, like Eichel, that's his team there in Buffalo.
Without question.
Oh, yeah.
So all these guys are either going to be future captains, future assistant captains, or if they're not already, they already are their team's biggest impact player in a lot of respects. So
Sure. Like
it's amazing. Like I said, it's rare that you can come into the league and stick in the league and make an impact. It's even more rare where you come into the league and you say, okay, I've got ownership of this team already as a rookie. It just speaks to not only their talent, but just the quality of the individuals that we're talking about. Like a guy like Austin Matthews, it's almost funny calling him a rookie because he comes across as such a seasoned player, a professional in all respects of the game. This is a guy that doesn't get rattled, has a stoicism that even in a market like Toronto, nothing seems too big for him. If anything, he still wants that. He still wants to be challenged, still wants to take on that next task. And I think that's why these guys are so successful and are probably going to be even more successful down the road.
Is he your Calder Trophy winner, Mike?
Ooh, I knew you were going to ask me that.
Haha.
I think today, yeah. Like, you look at him, and he is leading Line A in goals by one. He's leading them in points. Beyond that, though, something is special, I think, when you're a number one overall pick and you're able to step into a team that finished 30th overall last year, and you are, beyond anyone else in that team, the reason why this is a playoff team right now.
Absolutely.
And you're playing an important position at center. You're playing with two guys, in Nylander and Hyman, who are tremendous players, but let's face it, they're first-year players, so he's not getting any help that way.
No.
And on the road, he's getting he's getting top defense pairings, he's getting shut-down centers, and he's able to score 35 goals. That's just remarkable. So right now, he's my Calder winner. It would take a hell of a lot from Line in these next couple weeks to bump Matthews out of that.
Well, I can't see it because not only that, he's a center iceman, first of all. A noted center iceman against any top center iceman that there is. There's guys that are, okay, I'm not going to take that away, the Crosbys and these guys. But he plays a 200-foot game, Michael. He comes, you take a look at the responsibility. And he exuded character on the first game, which I've talked about before. He scores 4 goals. Everybody's waiting to get to talk to him. And all he talked about that he was responsible for the loss. He was on the ice when they scored the winning goal and said, let's not get carried away here about the goals I scored. It's only one game. I mean, he's a way beyond his years in maturity. And when you talk about these great young players, look at a team that's striving to be number one. Werenski is, without question, a leader on that team. That he's a go-to guy there.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like you said, these guys want to be better. If Matthews wanted to, he could just be an offensive player, scores 35 goals, and thank you very much, and head out the door. And I don't think anyone would have any problems with that. But like you mentioned, he wants to be that 200-foot player.
Yes.
Nothing is good enough. He scores 4 goals, and the thing that he's talking about is the goal that he was on the ice for against. So that speaks to their character. And Marner's the same way. You watch him, and what is impressive about Mitch Marner is not that he's so small and he's able to do what he is able to do out there. It's the fact that he's also as hard or as dogged on the puck in the defensive zone as he is in the offensive zone, and makes the coaching staff's job a lot easier. And I think that translates across the lineup. I think when a Connor Brown sees that Austin Matthews is working as hard or a Mitch Marner is working as hard, he's obviously going to do the same thing. And a guy like William Nylander is the same respect. Earlier in the season and even to this day, if you look at what his deficiencies are, it's probably in the defensive end, but he's made strides from the first game onwards. And I think a lot of that is because of the other guys like Matthews, like Marner, and others, even Kadri, are basically setting the tone in that regard.
Mike, there's another young player in Toronto that you've had the opportunity to study, and he goes by the name of Jack Hughes. I was wondering if you could give some input on him as a player and what to expect from him in the future.
Michael wrote an article on him.
Yeah, it's funny. We're talking about young guys, and here's the next wave of the future. I think Jack Hughes is still two 2 years away from getting drafted in the NHL. I think he's the 20. I think he's 2019 or 2020 draft eligible. So we're talking about real young. But it's funny, when I was coming up with who might be the next Team North America 4 years later, I had Jack Hughes on the list, and that's how special of a talent this kid is. He's small. He's basically Johnny Gaudreau or Mitch Marner, but man, oh man, he has skill. Skates very much like Connor does. Really nifty, kind of like Mitch and Johnny in terms of doesn't get hit a whole lot and just puts up just gobs and gobs of points. So yeah, he's a name that I think a lot of people are going to be familiar with. And you know what? I think what we're seeing now with Connor, and I remember talking with Jack about this, was his style of play is really kind of catching on at the younger levels. Like, you watch Connor and nothing is in half speed. It seems like he's got the puck and he's just trying to go. And it's very rare that you see a player who's able to stick handle and carry the puck with this kind of speed and the amount of pace that Connor plays with. And yet all the young guys are now playing that way. So it's having a real trickle-down effect. And I think if you think the league is fast now, just wait till these young guys come into the league. Like we mentioned, Jack Hughes, and there's so many others that are kind of watching Connor McDavid play, and they're saying, okay, basically, that's the kind of style I want to play. I want to have the puck, and I want to play with pace, and I want to just keep pushing it. And I kind of shudder to think what the league is going to look like in 5 years when all these speedsters are in the game. And they're just whipping around the ice a million miles an hour.
Oh, like if you can't skate in a few years from now, you're going to get windburn. You're going to need Noxzema to put on your neck as they go by you. But the real thing about Jack Hughes is, just like we said about Matthews being a special person, like a top character guy, just like we said about Scheifele and McDavid, like exudes character. It comes out his fingernails. This guy's a high character kid. I know the environment. I knew his mother before his father met her and stuff, and know what they're all about. But I've often said all the time, you know what I mean, when you put character and ability together, you get a superstar like Matthews and McDavid and these guys.
Sid.
Just for a little background for anyone who doesn't know, Jack Hughes, obviously his father was a long-time player development coach for the Leafs, and say what you will about how they develop players, but this guy definitely knows the approach to take with his sons, and his eldest son, Quinn, is in the National Development Program. I believe he's committed to Michigan University.
Yeah, and he's a heck of a player, like a phenomenal player.
Should be a top 10 pick, no question, in 2018. So, get used to hearing about the Hughes kids. Because,
and the younger brother.
They're special.
The younger brother, Luke, is
really good.
Oh, yeah. These guys, he can go around you, the younger brother, Luke, but he'll go over top you, too. First of all, their mother was a phenomenal athlete, okay, and high character people. And so the brother that's with the National Development Program, he's the best defenseman on that team by far. And I think he's a candidate to be the best player on that team. So, you know, these guys have come up in an environment, like you said. I tried to hire his dad as a coach one time, and because he is a very good teacher and stuff like that. So, as you pointed out, that it's going to be coming in the future. This isn't the end of the great players. And
the interesting about the brother too, Sherry, sorry to cut you off, but so Quinn is not a tall fellow by any stretch of the imagination, and he might be the Johnny Gaudreau of defensemen, where we see that we see Quinn kind of break through in the NHL as a small, skilled defenseman, and I don't think we've really seen that yet. We've seen him maybe a couple players here and there, like maybe Ryan Ellis, guys of that nature, but not to the skill level that Quinn Hughes has. So it will be interesting to see where he gets chosen in the NHL and what his path looks like, because he could actually end up becoming maybe the first really high-end skilled, really small defenseman. And if he's able to have success in the NHL, I think that opens a lot of doors for a lot of smaller skilled players that maybe are afraid to play defense, because it's always thought of as you have to have a bit of size to play the position.
Well, when I see Ellis playing, who I have a lot of respect for, and remember when he played for the Windsor Spitfires, Quinn Hughes is highly, highly skilled, very unselfish, great vision, just like we're talking about Jack. Okay, so I mean, it's in the family, it's in the DNA, and good upbringing. So, so we shouldn't be worried about these 10 young guns you're talking about, because pretty soon you'll be writing about the next 10 young guns.
Yeah, I think part 2 is already in the works now. We're talking about this next group.
Right. Listen, Michael, I just can't thank you enough. I like good things to happen to good people, and you're good people. But never mind just being a good person. You're a gifted writer, and we look forward to reading you. And thanks very, very much to sharing some of your time with us.
All right. Well, thanks again for having me on. It was a pleasure. A lot of fun.
Good to talk to you, and keep punching.
Thank you, Mike.
All right. Thank you.
Very well spoken, Sherry. Another well spoken guest that we have had on the Let Me Tell You Something Hockey podcast.
Yeah, I'm telling you this. It's really interesting, you know what I mean? And you know what I respect in these guys? I'm a big fan of Steve Simmons, because I think he's got a gift, and I talked about his soul when he writes and stuff like that. He put that 100 list together and justified it and said, I did my homework. Now he's going to put what he considers the top 10 new young guns, and he's going to get criticized because we talked about all the possibilities.
It's homework.
But he said, I'm putting it down, and I'm taking a position. I'm going to justify it. I mean, there's no fence walking with these kind of reporters, but they do, like you said, they do their homework.
And they take a stance.
That's right. They do their homework and take a position. And that's what it's all about, not willy-walling around and say, oh, maybe and what if. And so I really enjoy visiting with these people, because, the other thing is they're not all, people that are all wrapped up in themselves, they're overdressed. These guys we've interviewed, they're not all wrapped up in themselves. They just they've got information that they've done, as you said, their research and homework.
Sherry, hearing him talk about the Hughes kids it just excited me. I don't know about you, but it just really made me think, how do you develop talent like this? How do you have 3 kids who could go on to become potential top 10 NHL draft picks? It's incredible. And our next guest, Sherry, Jack Hughes, is going to be able to tell us a bit about that.
Great young kid, too. Great young kid.
All right. We are now pleased to welcome Jack Hughes to the show. Jack, thanks for coming in.
Jack.
Hey, Sherry.
How are you doing, Jack? First of all, I wanted to tell you that we're really excited. Thank you for coming on here. I love interviewing highly talented young people that have high character. And I've known you since you were knee-high to a grasshopper. So I'm excited because I really believe in my heart. I'm not trying to be patronizing. You're the best player available in this whole province, or it's ever available for the OHL draft. I don't want to demean whoever got Player of the Year. He must be a heck of a player, because I know how good you are and I know what kind of person you are. So I want to thank you for coming on. It's kind of
thanks for having me.
No kidding here. So now listen, I'm gonna tell something, and then I got to hear from you. Because good players and scoring. Stevie Sullivan who played 18 years in the NHL. I got to tell you this quick story. And he was a free agent, and he wasn't very big. He could skate like you can skate, and he played 18 years. And we had 4 scrimmages in training camp. And he got 19 points in our training camp at Sault Ste. Marie. So right away I said to my assistant manager, get him up there, and we give him a full scholarship for education and stuff like that. And he was sitting between his parents, and I said to him, how many points do you have in these scrimmages? He says, I don't know. I said, you're a liar. Called him a liar right to his face, and he looked at me, and the parents had never met me. I said, I've never known a guy that got a lot of points that didn't know how many points. I said, how many points you got? And he said, around 18. I said, you're damn right you got 19. Now, how many points you got this year?
I think I had around 170.
170. In how many games?
75, 80.
75, 80. How's your math,
Jeez.
Minion? How is your math here?
My math isn't good, but I know that's pretty impressive.
I guess so. That's more than impressive. Now tell me something that, first of all, I know your family really well. I know the upbringing. I know what it's all about. And, I think your brother Quinn, who I know very well too, and I think he's the best, for sure the best defenseman on that U.S. team, if not the best player. I know your brother Luke, who I think is going to be one of the best. He might even be better than you two guys when it comes to it. Now tell me about all this. When you're as talented as you are, the high character that you have, the environment that you were brought up in. Tell me about this when everybody's saying you're going to be the first pick and you're the best player. How do you deal with it day to day and people talking to you?
Really, I'm just trying to enjoy it. It only happens once, right? I only go through the OHL draft once, so I'm just trying to enjoy it with my friends, my family. Just taking it lightly. I'm not being cocky or anything, like shooting my mouth off. So
No.
really, just trying to have fun with it, I guess, and not taking any pressure.
Well, good for you. First of all, you're never going to be cocky with it. You're humble, and you've stayed at my house and everything, and I know what you are. And I think one of the biggest reasons you're a star and going to be a superstar is because of your character and because of your upbringing. So I'm not surprised, but you got to be thinking about it, and good that you're having fun, because that's what life's about. I used to tell my players all the time, winning is fun. Let's go have some fun.
Jack, your dad Jim was the director of player development for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I just want to hear from you what role that helped in developing you and your brothers as hockey players, and the type of training and the programs that he put you in as kids, because it's quite incredible to see. We mentioned earlier on the show that 3 brothers could all potentially be top 10 NHL picks one day. It's incredible to think about, and it's no coincidence.
No.
Yeah, for sure. The mental things he would tell us, the things he would be telling the 19, 20-year-old Maple Leaf prospects, he'd be telling the same things to us when we were 10, 11, 12, 13. And, he made us think like a pro, I guess, and just the way we trained, we did it so methodically. Everything we did, hard work. He and my mother taught me so much, everything I know is from them. The things they did with us, shooting in the basement, taking us to outdoor hockey. They've done so much for us, both mentally and physically. They've made us better people and better players, I think.
Well, first of all, your mother was a heck of an athlete. Mm-hmm. Let's not forget that. And that I knew your grandparents very well, and your grandmother still alive, and your grandfather died prematurely from cancer, which is just makes me, it hurts just when I talk about it. But I can tell you this, that kind of an environment. I tried to hire your dad as a coach one time.
Yeah.
Yeah, he told me to suck eggs there and so forth in 2-4 time. But anyway, he did. So I know the family and stuff. And tell us about this. When you're so committed like you are, because I always believe motivation is how bad you believe in something times how bad you want to attain it. I know how bad you believe in it. I know how you live it. I know how bad you want to attain it. So what is your typical week during hockey season? How often are you on the ice?
Yeah, for sure. I think we practice with the Marlies. We practice 3 times a week. Some weeks we played once a week. Some weeks we played 4 times a week. And then, as much as I can, I try to get in the gym, try to get stronger, maybe once or twice a week, and then maybe do a little bit of extra skills with groups called prep, pro edge power. I think that's McDavid's group.
Mm-hmm.
We practice 4 times a week, let's say, and 2 games, so we're probably on the ice 6 out of 7 days a week. And then, just the fun aspect of it, when it comes to winter time. Me and my friends are always going to the outdoor rink and just playing 4 hours of shin whenever we can. So,
right.
I think we just live it, and I love it. It's not work to me; it's all fun, right? So, I can never get enough of it.
Yeah, the thing about it is, you love it by conduct, going to outdoor rinks. I grew up on outdoor rinks, and I'm a couple of years older than you, But the thing is this, is that that's just an example, and you couldn't get enough of it. Like you say, you'd be there 4 hours, and if the ice was still there, you'd have stayed longer. That's your feeling for it, and that's why you're this good, and I'm excited to be able to tell people about it.
Jack, you mentioned earlier that your parents really helped you develop into a good hockey player, but also a good person, and that's something that Sherry emphasizes just as much as anything, really, the importance of that, and I think that that's really great that you mentioned that. I want to ask you something in regards to the OHL. I know that you applied for exceptional status, and ultimately it was denied, so I was wondering if you can talk about that experience and how maybe that will help you going forward, or if it sparked anything in you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was such a great experience going through that process, like all the interviews, meeting the people I did. I mean, it just made me mature so much faster, I think. And I mean, it was just great for me to grow up that fast. I think, like, I know, like, it wasn't really publicized or anything like that, but behind the scenes, it was really good for me. I think it was a blessing that I didn't get it because, I mean, it helped me, like, it allowed myself to stay at home another year and have one more year of minor midget where I could really excel. So I think that process was really good for me, like, meeting the people I did and just hearing things about the league. And I learned a lot of new things about myself as well, I think.
Well, Jack, there's no question. I mean, you've seen it. I've known it for years. I mean, what people, when they watch you, never mind your just ability, never mind his skill, Minion. He's a phenomenal team player. Got great vision. If you're open, you're going to get the puck. And sometimes it's frustrating because when you're got that much ability that he does, he never shows any negativity on the ice. Which I really respect in this guy. And sometimes when you're that skilled and you give the puck and you're not getting it back, you know what I mean? He never showed any negative emotion. And so this guy's destined for big things, like big, big things. And listen, I can't thank you enough. I mean, you just by listening to you, we know the character, we know the environment you're a product of. You know that I love your parents and you love your family, but besides that, it's because of the people you are. Never mind the fact that you happen to be a good hockey player. So all I know is that big things are destined for you, and I really want to thank you a lot for coming on.
Yeah, thank you, Sherry.
Good to talk to you. Keep punching.
Thanks, Jack. Good luck.
Thank you, yeah.
What a mature, young individual, Sherry.
It's hard to believe it. He's only 15 going on 16, isn't it? Like, I have said over and over with you, and all the time we've got to visit since you were a little guy, okay, all the time, that the average 16-year-old to 19-year-old that plays in the OHL or is a way more mature than the average 16-year-old that you run to in the street because of all the decisions, all the things that he had to do. I mean, think about what he talked about, his commitment. 4 hours on an outdoor rink playing with his buddies. And it wasn't work, it was fun. Going to the gym regularly. Think about and being the right kind of person, the environment that he's a product of. His mom and dad, I mean, who I know very, very well, with the direction. And it's frustrating when you're that talented, when you're playing with players that they know they're trying their best, but when you're above their ability, so to speak, and that's not meant with disrespect to the players, because they're not all born equal as hockey players, don't all have the same commitment, and you're playing with them, and you don't get the puck back, or you don't, do certain things, and not let it bother you, because inside it's got to bother you, because you think, if I just got this. I'm watching a game one time where he goes in, tic-tac-toe, how's your mama on the defenseman, goes right by the guy, does makes a phenomenal shot, scores a goal, called back because a guy 3 zones away got a penalty. And so all those 170-some points he talked about weren't one of the points. And so, but he never showed that frustration, never showed the frustration because he didn't get player of the year or whatever it is. And I'm sure this kid is a heck of a player. I'm not trying to demean anyone. But inside, when you got that competitive spirit, and especially the guy that got it, he's a superstar then. Because this guy's a superstar. And it was even hard for me to accept because I knew him so well, but I don't want to demean the other guy. I didn't see him enough. And
it's a humbling experience.
Sure it is.
One day he's going to look back at it and maybe he'll say, this was the best thing that happened to me as a teenager.
What you just said when you asked that question about an exceptional player. So anyway, great show today. I mean, good people again. Got insights, and now you can call your mom and dad again and tell them how hard you're working, Minion. But I know the facts.
Do I ever say this? Are you talking to my parents behind the scenes or something? Because I'm scratching my head and trying to remember this phone call.
You're calling them, trying to tell them how hard you're working so they can send you an extra $100 or something.
Whoa!
Feeling sorry for you.
What?
Have a good week.
Keep punching.